Okay, so moving on, our next speaker is David Kavanagh. He's the managing director at Integrated Energy Pty Limited, Australia. Today, he will be talking about managing COVID-19 response at city level, leveraging global knowledge and education. So I would like David to please share his thoughts. I think the topic is about health, energy, and transformation for a post-COVID-19 world. So I would like David to share his thought about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thanks again for the invitation, Dr. Hafiz. So my topic spans a couple of areas here. What have we learned so far in COVID? And as we look forward, what is that meaning for health and incident response across the world? And also, in addition to resilience for a community, we're also looking to its needs for health and transportation and communication. So I'll share some of the progress we're making in those areas also, and a bit of a look ahead too. So first of all, into COVID, looking forward into what does it mean for robotics, autonomy, intelligent systems, and linked to smart cities, and the needs for smart medicine, and then transformation in energy and transportation. And green hydrogen is the particular area of focus, and I'm, thanks to our clients, able to share our current illustration from Western Australia. A little bit about myself, currently leading design development of the first hydrogen green value stream here in Australia, as well as working substantially across COVID and starting here in UWA in medicine and engineering. Some thank yous to those who helped us with our papers and co-authors, the Dean of Medicine here, John Watson, and Professor Michael Small, one of our leading modelling consultants and a Professor of Mathematics at UWA, our medical directors, our technology consultants, and in particular our clients from Infinite Blue Energy and Top Group for enabling some of this project work to be shared. What we're about: safer, more valuable operations and projects, better for people and the environment, and we provide an integrated way of working, which is better for that purpose. We were on the front page of the Wall Street Journal recently for our COVID work, and recently presenting on the hydrogen bankable feasibility as well, with a range of global clients, some of which may be familiar to you. Those in the top left are maybe a bit new. CSP National came to us with a community challenge for energy and transportation, and Top Group and Infinite Blue Energy Group, respectively owners of a range of roadhouses across regional Western Australia, and Infinite Blue Energy, proponents of a leading green hydrogen project, Aerosmith. So a bit of a global footprint and special focus on the bright green in the middle of Australia here. So we've worked substantially with COVID for some months, helping inform city level response in particular for the city of Melbourne. And from that, we've also contributed advice at state level to the health department here, and some national input also looking at the future roadmap of what could be done. A lot of this challenge, of course, is in integrating the different levels of response and decision making from a local government level to a state and to a federal government level. And numerous inquiries, I believe, show the importance of clarity in decision making and collaboration across those levels of government and reaching out into community. And we'll show a little bit about how that can be done. Globally, of course, the crisis continues, is not abating, recently 3 million fatalities, and it continues on a linear, sadly, on a linear path, despite the work that's going on around the world. And even in countries like the US, recent forecasts currently at 200,000 plus, and could be predicted as far as 371,000 cases by the end of the year. So the vaccine race continues, and we've seen a range of good and bad experiences in this, of course. Western Australia were one of the most fortunate, where we effectively took action from the second week in March through to the over the following month, which put us on a much different trend. And this shows the decision making at global level, at national level, at state level and local level to enable that to happen. And the green there is a city workshop, which we ran, which I ran to give advice and action for the community there. And since this time, of course, Australia has had, sadly, the second wave in Victoria, which you can see the dramatic increase, even on a logarithmic scale, of cases and deaths in Australia. Unfortunately, focused in Victoria. In contrast, Western Australia now has just achieved 6 months with zero community transmission. So how was this enabled? Strong support and strong action to suppress the virus, rapid increase of capacity and testing, innovation and vaccine development, at the same time as safeguarding lives and measures to safeguard livelihoods, the JobKeeper leasing stimulus, but we've seen the global costs continuing to rise above $3 trillion. Almost uniquely, Western Australia's economy has actually continued to grow despite the COVID response, and hence its exports are supporting a lot of the Australian economy right now, where other countries had their export production curtailed because of the impact of the virus. So if you consider where this might happen globally, the good cases you're looking for is a virus contained and strong growth rebound in the top right, an A4 case, which you could argue is like Western Australia. Australia overall has done still quite well compared to many parts of the world, more like an A1, whereas there are certainly places where the trend continues, South America in particular, and the cost of the economy is higher and higher. So one thing we learned was the need to work together at the speed of a pandemic. So as a case in point in the use of modelling, I engaged Professor Michael Small within 24 hours, and then within 24 hours after that, we had the first models, which that day I was sharing with my clients at the City of Melbourne. And it was highly effective. Within that particular workshop, halfway through in the coffee break, they were taking measures to close the doors of their main buildings, close the doors at their main operations. 2 days later, they were working safely from home. And 3 weeks later, they announced one of the first city-level stimulus packages of $15 million for COVID response, including further investment in digital, and they've been seen as a bit of a leader since then. So that speed of response is so key, and there's something about the collaboration which is enabled in those times, which we would look to carry into the future. So yeah, as I mentioned, what we found was our models predicted quite well what was happening and going to happen, and then we learned again that we'd managed to break through the yellow line, which trended away. And from that case, we were able to further refine the modelling in that process. And now, building on our current, now literally, 6 months today with zero community transmission. But the key is, how do you make this a transferable good practice? So we developed a good practice model behind that, which enabled individual communities or states to compare and contrast their areas of strength and weakness. This was supported by a program of courses and training and certification, which we also supported a range of our clients with. And thanks to our medical director there. This speaks to the type of modelling we were doing in terms of the role of super spreaders. And what was distinctive about our modelling is that we were able to effectively predict what could happen with very few parameters to begin with. And this was building on 10 years of knowledge from Professor Michael Small. And you can see now, you would have read today, a significant notification from the World Health Organization saying they don't think just locking everyone down is the way to go. and what other measures can you take. And this is an example of our work which shows the different possibilities where you can selectively apply different measures to understand what has best effect for least impact on the community and hence least impact on economies and livelihoods. In particular, we were also able to show the critical role of contract tracing through smart systems such as an app and a supporting backend to enable that to happen. And we can build this also into an adaptive process that we can use in a FEOC, a Public Health Emergency Operations Center, where we build the models, then update them in near real time to frame the initial response tactics. And as we see that in execution, we can link that back into the tactics to apply. And modeling has certainly taken a big role. Sometimes it's been reactive rather than proactive. Sometimes it's not been shared with the public or with key stakeholders. Whereas we found by being able to be open and engaging with that, it helps the decision making. So from a West Australian perspective, results were better than predicted and one of the best in the world. The model itself has been, the paper's been downloaded about 500 times now and gone across the world quite far. This enables us to head towards eradication and faster recovery and inform localized near real-time decision making. So I'll move that on a little bit. This was the extract from the front page of the Wall Street Journal and part of our the significant opportunity to update what we've learned as a nation. I'll move it forward a bit more into technology and then cross over to smart cities and smart systems. So when we now start to bring in both on-body sensors, robotics, and environmental sensoring into this ecosystem, this is when we can really start to be selective and effective and more agile and better able to contain the mystery cases or the known cases across. And it really does enable a new model for medicine, where I think the exposure of medical staff can be dramatically reduced by about 85% or more. When we think of the linkage between smart cities, so I've got some classical smart city capabilities here, and many of them relate very well to the challenges of COVID, such as public safety, traffic management, education, smart health, and smart home. And we've been able to integrate the mobility data down to a very low level granularity and add that up to the GIS level in consultation with CSIRO to give some effective results. And we think, robotics, pardon me, has an important role, and smarter collaboration certainly enables this. So we've got some cases there of robotics for infection control, a smart airborne system for delivery of vaccines or bringing in test results, for example. And the other key aspect I would recommend is an integrated operations model which allows complete situational awareness across the parties who are involved. And in many cases, we've seen the failure of that situational awareness to be maintained, whereas we can design for a system and a way of working where that is enabled and is proven to be effective in many other environments. I've got a little video here which shows you an example of the inner workings of a public health emergency operations center, which is designed for that purpose of being collaborative and highly connected. It also exists digitally with multi-person virtual reality. So we can also bring in assets like the digital representation of the COVID virus itself, if we're talking about researches and interventions. And here you can see the range of stakeholders who need to be engaged to effectively operate the process that we showed earlier. And personally, I found it very helpful to pick up the way your body senses and integrates information when working in a 3D virtual environment, which is collaboratively connected, is quite powerful compared to just looking at a PowerPoint or even a video. So in this case, we showed how we might be able to link hospitals or researchers with folks who are in a more decision-making operational environment to enable that to take place. So we've seen rapid innovation coming through to enable this as well, including high-speed testing, uses of CCTV and drones for surveillance, and different types of data integration. And even education has dramatically transformed now to where students say they prefer online, and some universities have said that's what they're just going to use for future for all their lectures. The needs for fast response and localized data. And here we've seen some strong company responses from resource companies, for example, and energy companies working hard actually to extend their economic power in a good way. So I'll just move ahead a little bit to our work with South America. So thanks to CSIRO and Austrade there, we're extending this opportunity. To conclude, what we saw was in West Australia a rapid control of this pandemic, especially back in March. And when we look ahead to what's been effective or ineffective, when we look at the Ruby Princess, the experience of the Tasmanian hospitals, the experience of Victoria, they all show, I believe, the value of digital systems for pandemic response, in particular contract tracing and situational awareness through an integrated operations model. And I've seen where that's been missed in the design and in implementation. So I think there's a strong opportunity here for Australia in robotics, automation, and intelligent systems to help with that. So shifting ahead a little bit, changing gears, you might say, into hydrogen. This is an example of a hydrogen-powered vehicle, and we're working actively now in this domain. So hydrogen can be used across energy and in many feedstock applications as well. And I've shown there in green the area of our expertise in supporting that. This is the West Australian picture in terms of what the state goals were for 2022 and then extending to 2040. So some key features: export of renewable hydrogen in remote locations, renewable hydrogen in the gas network, and refueling for hydrogen vehicles. And in fact, we're working on 3 of those right now, and I'll show you that case study to have them working by 2021. And then the longer term goal of 2040, a global market share and LNG hydrogen exports similar to LNG, 10% in the gas network, widely used for mining, haulage, and regional transportation. So the states actually accelerated this to 2030. And we can see similar ramp up like we did with the transformation to integrated operations we introduced into the LNG industries. You can see in the red curve there from 0 to 100% over 7 years. I think hydrogen is going to ramp up quite quickly now. So this is a live example to make that real for you, and an integrated supply chain solution of upstream, midstream, and downstream for green hydrogen with our clients at Infinite Blue Energy. So initially, this is a 5 to 25 tonne a day green hydrogen focused on the transport market domestically, in particular to provide fuel for the hydrogen stations we're currently designing. So this is the west coast of Western Australia, farmland, plenty of sun and plenty of wind close to the coast. You can see some of the new hydrogen vehicles that are currently being designed and manufactured now. In this case on 2,000 hectares of land, 10 megawatts of solar-driven alkaline electrolyzer with 15 megawatts of solar. So this is $63 million and happening quite quickly now. Then progresses to the next stage of 25 tonnes per day, of which about 3/4 will be for the transport market, with 85 megawatts of solar and 70 megawatts of wind. So it starts to become quite significant with a $350 million build cost. And then as stage 2, it scales again to a gigawatt of green energy, enabling very large scale export at 131 tons a day total product, half a gigawatt of solar, and 385 megawatts of wind, with a large-scale battery as well. So this is a $2 billion export project. And of course, to ship this, you need some suitable tankers. And this is an illustration of the liquid hydrogen tankers, which are bound for near Asia Pacific market in 2025. So currently, one vessel under construction, but this is definitely scaling up. And where integrated energy and top group are most involved is connecting the rest of the value stream. So here are some examples. H2X is an Australian manufacturer of hydrogen vehicles. Hyzon bringing in trucks, and Hyundai have their trucks in production as well. So some of our own work is using a data-driven design of a hydrogen network for Australia. So the light green at the top are existing stations of our clients. So we're looking to repurpose 5 of those. And then I have identified future stations for development in other locations. And then we have some joint stations being developed in teal with our top group and Infinite Blue Energy partners together. And Eastern Coast, we see some additional options also for 17 exist sites with New Vault. And there is still opportunity there in the purple for other areas we believe that will be effective across Australia. So we're building on an existing strong business, 2 decades of experience with this type of truck to be powered, and very long range, very heavy duty, which drive high economic advantage for hydrogen compared to electric, for example. This is an example of one of our designs for that location. The hydrogen is shipped transported in liquid form approximately 240 kilometers from the site to enable it. So to conclude, the future of power we see is renewable with solar and wind, enabled with hydrogen. We also see the future of transportation is similarly what you have now today in petrol. We see that becoming electrically powered vehicles, and what you have today in diesel will become hydrogen powered vehicles. Fortunately for us, Australia and Western Australia is globally advantaged in both of those domains. We do have special needs and requirements for opportunity in Western Australia, with specific economic opportunities right in front of us and happening now. It's quite an exciting time. So let's work together to make this happen, and I'm very happy to take questions and support anyone interested in this space. So
thank you,
over
David.
to questions.
Thanks, David. It was a great presentation. So any questions from the audience, please? So David, you mentioned about the future of transportation is electric and hydrogen.
Yes.
So is this project is being rolled out in WA, or do you have any things happening in NSW and other states as well, or how is it progress?
Yeah, sure. So we've done a design for all of Australia, as you've seen. And the initial stations, the initial 4 will be under construction next year to be ready for the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. The stations in other states will follow, though of course we do have one in Canberra about to commence operations in the next few months with another operator. So significant opportunity across the rest of Australia. Yeah, so Victoria, New South Wales, and a bit of Queensland. There's also sites identified through the group. And naturally, when you look at it globally, in California, they have a good history now of hydrogen stations, and they're just adding an extra 100 to the network as we speak. In Germany, they're now adding a station every 2 weeks. Korea and Japan, Korea is looking for 300 stations in the next couple of years. So we're a bit behind globally, but we can catch up, I think, with.
Yep. Perfect. Any other questions from the audience? Okay, thank you, David. Thanks for your time. It was a great presentation, and I'll look forward to discuss further things with you later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.